Petition E-6679 for ethics. I had made a video about it yesterday because if you've watched any of my TikTok videos, I am bothered by bullshit. It drives me nuts that politicians are successful by lying to Canadians, not just bullshitting either, straight up lying. This petition, even if I don't believe it would be successful, I would still support it in the way that I think the government needs to hear how many Canadians are frustrated with bullshit. I think that bullshit has become the norm too much. It is too accepted. And if we accept it too much, pretty soon we watch guys saying, hey, they're eating cats and dogs, and then we vote for them. And I don't want to be in that position.
100%. I signed it.
Yeah.
I think when I signed it, there's only about 28,000 signatures at the time.
They
But
have until November 27th.
I don't understand. I don't think this is even a left or right or any of that garbage. This is just plain simple. They got to tell the truth. They got to stop lying and deceiving people. The misinformation, it's absolutely ridiculous right now. And it's getting worse. That's the problem, is it's getting worse because it's working. Because
Yes.
people are either too brain dead to even understand the truth, or they're just so by party lines that they want to be like, I know it's a lie, but I'm going to say it now too, because if I say it, then maybe I can convince other people. And that's insane.
The lying is interesting because I had somebody that I was engaging with who was a hardcore Trump supporter. And I would ask him, like, you know that a trade deficit isn't the same as ripping somebody off. Which country actually pays the tariffs? And it was just about that. We could come up with the cats and dogs thing again, too. That this guy says stuff that's not true. And his reply was, he has a way with words. I can't. How do you know what he's being truthful about? Is there a code? Like when he's like doing something, he's telling, like, how do you support somebody if you don't know when they're being truthful and when they're not being truthful?
I feel like recently that one individual is pretty much not truthful the entire time. He's always constantly trying to swing things, misinform people. It's just blatant lying half the time. And you have to sit there and go like, how is this even working? Like, how it doesn't make sense to me.
And they don't have to answer to how it doesn't make sense. When you watch Poilievre, like, we'll bring the ostrich situation up. This man will never, ever put his stance on whether or not he believes those ostriches should be culled. Because if he takes the side of, let's say, law and order, because it is in the law, it's in our trade practices, if he says that, then he's going to alienate everybody who's cheering for the ostriches. And everybody, show me anybody who's cheering for the ostriches who's not on that side of politics. Everybody that I've seen, it's the Freedom Convoy moved to the ostrich farm with a few new people. That's what it feels like.
Oh, 100%. Or just the simple fact that when we talk about that proposed pipeline through BC, where he said, oh, BCers, they're all for the pipeline. It's the Liberals that aren't for the pipeline. And then you're thinking to yourself,
yeah,
well, the Liberals aren't even in government in BC. It's the NDP. So it's baffling how he's trying to swing it back to the Liberal government constantly.
Well, since I brought up the Freedom Convoy, I'm going to talk about like the same kind of strategy. When the convoy went to Ottawa, they were going for mostly provincial mandates, right? The only federal mandate was the border. And even if that they had been successful, they wouldn't be able to go across the border because the Americans had it anyways. So why do they focus all of their negative attention towards our capital instead of all of our premiers, who were actually the ones that were policing the things that they were upset about? Because it is way easier to get people to be angry at one person than it is for them to be angry at 10 different people.
Especially when the 10 different people are from all different political spectrums.
Yeah.
It's not
and
just,
most of them are conservative. And they're very careful with their wording. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about, because there's this idea I've heard from other people about how they just don't know better. Danielle Smith isn't smart enough to know how to say it properly, or yeah, they are smart enough to word it in a way that they can take something that came from a speck of truth somewhere and then spin it into putting a totally different image into their audience's mind, and they know what that image is going to be. It has nothing to do with a lack of intelligence and everything to do with people exploiting how busy people are, how short our attention spans are. The internet has taken our attention spans and put them to this much. We're so used to instant information, and you have my attention for 30 seconds, and if you don't keep it, I'm on to next. They're taking advantage of those kinds of things in order for political gain, but it isn't because they aren't smart enough. And it isn't because that the people who support them aren't smart enough either. There's a lot of things that go into the barriers of understanding or wanting to look stuff up. When they have this emotional thing going on and they have this idea that is making them feel a certain way, you cannot get them to look it up. It's
Yeah. They don't want to look it up. They don't want to know the truth. They want to roll with it because it makes them feel better. And they see it and they react. They're like, yeah, see, that's exactly it. Just like the food tax. It's
yeah,
not food tax.
it's no
Not a
fucking food
tax.
tax.
What is happening here? But yet you go to the website, you look up on the conservative website. Yeah, he's going to axe the food tax. What food tax? Masters of spin, absolute masters of spin.
And the
And
way that they're spinning it is that they're saying, because when you look on the conservative website and in the big bold thing is the tax is only because it rhymes with axe. They already have thousands of people who are they already have t-shirts that say axe the tax. They can keep going with this. It's easy to remember, but it isn't fair to say that it's a tax. It isn't fair to say, they're saying that any government regulation that is going to cause private industry to charge more is a tax. And that's not fair to say, because a tax is something that is paid to the government. Paying, let's say when he called the EV mandates, he said you're going to be paying an extra $20,000 in tax because the car manufacturers might get charged 20,000 per vehicle that they fall short of the mandate. If you're paying more for a Mustang, that's not going to the government. That's going to Ford. That's not a tax because it's not going to the government. It's just an increased price because of government regulations. And I don't think it's fair to call that a tax. And it pisses me off that more media don't call it out and say, bullshit, why is that guy calling it a tax? They understand why he's calling it a tax. It's not right. They know the kind of picture they're putting into Canadians' minds.
that's why that petition is so important. We have to get to a point where we all know that what they're saying is the truth and it's not misinformation. It's not spinning things to try and enrage people. They're literally trying to incite that group of people that's going to take it and run with it and be angry and just make them angry. And if they, you're making people angry on purpose, and that's what they want. They want people to be angry and they want them to go out there and they want them to rage. And that's where we are right now. And that's sad. I love fantastic political debates when it's based on reality, where two people can go back and forth and they can debate issues and they can just have at it, but in a way that nobody's lying, no one's misinforming anyone. It's just this is real. And I think we've lost that. I think it's going away. And it's pretty sad to see.
Do you think it's savable?
I think society, I think what's happening right now is society has opened those doors to Pandora's box. And I don't know if it is savable because it's such an incredible strategy for different groups, whether or not you're far left or far right. I think everyone tries to incite their people in certain ways. It's working. I think as a society, if we were smarter as a group of people, if we called out the stupidity, and we all did, and we didn't get rage baited by these people, then yeah, it might be salvageable, but I don't think society's there yet.
I don't think so.
They like it. They like it.
There's too many people who enjoy the rage. Personally, and I've said this I've been on TikTok for 3 years now. I've said this almost every day that I'm on here, is that rage is so much more powerful than almost any other emotion. When you think about, you can be in the best mood. You're skipping along the street, you're whistling, you're in a great mood. How fun
Who
is
winks
it?
at people, Christy? What? I'm just watching you walk down the street winking at
Okay,
Hey,
that part's creepy.
but
Don't do
what's in
that.
your eye? You got something in your eye? Something going on? What's happening there?
I was
That's
trying to paint
hilarious.
a picture of a
I saw the
joyful
picture.
person who was happy in their surroundings, and I
Saw the
saw it in
picture.
my eye.
I thought it was hilarious until the winking. I was like, I can't keep going with the winking here. Could you
Try that in a
imagine if I was going
non-creepy way.
around smiling and waving and winking at people? That'd be creepy. Super. I'd get arrested. Like someone would call somebody on me. 100%.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's go back
And
to the
now I
picture
have that
without the
picture in my
winking.
head. Okay, so back to my point. Let's say you're in a fantastic mood. You're humming to yourself,
Oh,
right?
perfect.
And not being creepy, but you got to skip in your step. How hard is it for one asshole to come by and say or do the wrong thing and it flies you into a rage? Not all the time, but it's depending on the action, depending on the offense. It's easy to go from super happy to I want to rage very quickly. Whereas if you're already in a rage, if you're seeing red and you got steam coming out of your ears, how easy is it for somebody to come and knock that into a more positive space? I think that first of all, rage is harder to stop, and it's easier to interrupt.
If I'm in a great mood and someone's like cutting you off and doing whatever, you're whatever. Obviously, they want to get somewhere quicker, blah, blah. Because I'm in a decent mood. I'm not even worried about it. If I'm in a bad mood and someone cuts me off and down, oh man, I lose it. I absolutely
Yeah,
lose it. I think a lot of people are just not in good moods lately.
yeah.
Everyone's all up on all these things and they have these triggers, whether you're on the left or whether or not you're on the right. I think everyone has triggers. And it's those people that are pushing those buttons to keep triggering people to be angry. And they really want people to be angry. That's the problem. On
I think it's a good point when you said it's not a right or a left thing, because I don't believe that our triggers have anything to do with politics. I think everybody's individual triggers has to do with their own life experience, their childhoods, how they are interacting with society at the moment. Everything is personal, but I think that politics is exploiting that we all have triggers, and they're telling us where to put our rage. So if you are in a bad mood and you're losing it in road rage or whatever, and legally you can't get out and do something about
and
it.
do what
So
you want to do. Yeah.
it sits in there, and maybe it settles down a while, but then the rage baiters come by and then they pick everything that we couldn't take action on. Why don't you come and join us? You can take action on this.
Yeah.
Right now,
100%.
Jamil Javani is really taking advantage of that. Are you familiar with him? He's good friends with JD Vance. I think he was in his wedding. He's an MP in Toronto, and he's going on a campus tour to tell young men that they're victims of feminism and war on Christianity and that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's what he's going to say, but
All
that
these
if you follow him on X,
universities,
that's his message.
all these
So
guys going to universities trying to indoctrinate the younger generation or
yeah,
rape debate them or just do whatever. Just stay out of the
while
universities. Stay
yeah,
out of them. Leave them alone. Let them learn. Let them
but
do what they need to do.
they talk about wanting to shut them down. They disagree with them. They think that the universities are indoctrination factories, and that's why they don't want them to exist too.
Depends on what's happening in those universities. If there's room for free thinking, and I have my own thoughts on the whole education system and what
Oh,
it's actually geared for. But
I think probably we agree too.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
probably.
for another show, we'll try to get this one back to Canada. You spoke briefly about Smith and the pipeline
Oh,
and
okay.
how she was a bit bullshitty about it. And I talked about how she was careful with her words. And the way she was careful with her words was calling it a proposal or announcing a proposal. She made it sound like a plan, and it isn't a plan, it's an idea.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
big difference between a plan and an idea. An idea is I want to do this, and a plan is I am doing this. There is no plan yet. There's no money. $14 million. Somebody else pointed out that's like a couple of weeks of media. That's not like this $1 billion project doesn't want to pay for it. There were some people, some political experts discussing about how this is like a feeler bet. This has nothing to do with David Eby and everything to do with, will Mark Carney make comment on the tanker ban and the Indigenous community maybe that's speaking against it too. Did you hear her answer for that? We have Indigenous people in Alberta who let us do stuff here.
Yeah.
Indigenous people are not part of one tribe all across Canada. They're different.
I think it's funny though. What do you think of the timing too? Just after Truth and Reconciliation Day, like to start poking that bear.
I think it's better than had she done it on the day, but I do believe that it was planned to be close to it. Yep, I absolutely think it was planned to be very close to it. If you notice, this is when all the denial on social media about what happened in residential schools is on social media at any given time of any given day, but it is arguably stronger around National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.
Oh, about
Lindsay
the
Shepherd,
yeah, like
I think she
what?
was from BC actually, but she
Jeez.
was a communications person for the Conservative Party of BC, and John Rustad fired her for an ignorant tweet that she had put up on Truth and Reconciliation Day with, pardon me quoting her, fake flag. It's just, it was gross. It was super gross. This is not something that should be up for debate after the government has admitted that atrocities happen there. And when you put it up for debate, I think it's like, it's not even to say that it's disrespectful to the Indigenous communities, because that is not nearly as strong of a word. It is true, it is disrespectful, but a more accurate word would be harmful. When they do that, they're adding to the stereotypes and to the racism that hurts Indigenous communities. And John Rustad, if I may remind everybody, and that Lindsay person, I don't know how old she was, this Lindsay person who got fired, but perhaps she doesn't remember that John Rustad was the Minister for Indigenous Affairs for Christy Clark. I don't believe he's going to be on the pro denial side of this,
Yeah.
personally.
And regardless of anything, the whole premise of residential school pulling kids away from their families, just that alone, let alone any of the other things, was extremely harmful to the culture and the people. Like I don't understand how anyone could even remotely talk about the opposite to that.
Yeah.
It's too much for me.
Another argument that I'd heard, and actually Stephen Harper had slid it in to his apology in 2008, was some people had a positive experience, or some white kids went there too. And I think that's just the shittiest argument in the world. If you went by that logic, it wasn't everybody, then you would never prosecute any crime at any time, because it's not happening to 100% of the population. Oh, we're okay with people sexually abusing children because other children aren't sexually abused. It's a shit argument. Shit argument.